He won't allow anyone to burn fat. Cause and effect as well as the advance and retreat of history. Only he can control all this. Little Bean shook her little head to indicate that she didn't understand. However, it is clear that the divine ancestor already has those French styles. The information of the incarnate. Why leave it to someone else? For this issue, no doubt, it is a deliberate arrangement of Peng'an and Qianji Pavilion. True blood will not be affected by time temporarily. The causality of spatial constraints is theosopheric. Exposure to the events of the true blood descent. It can accelerate the comprehension of the supernatural power of cause and effect. They're fertilizing the boy called Broken Starlink. Or rather, they were waiting for something to blossom. As for what the endocarp is, take it and find out. In the middle of the conversation, it is the 5 first-class combatants of the God group. French ringing has been easily solved. And the sudden appearance of this mage. It also aroused their alarm. Although there will be more and more French people in the near future. But this time it came to an interesting place. It's too close to the base of the divine sun. So a few people decided. Check the mage's origins, as well as the situation inside the base. Another point at the same time. Saturday, Qing also waited for the goal of his trip. With a twist of space, Manhwa true blood descends, dripping on the corpse of a delivery boy. Except for the woman who had a backstage. Shanghai today. Only this one is left to attract the target of Manhwa Maki. Saturday, Qing intends to kill him as soon as possible. Then he found Duan Xinglian and asked about the same month. At this moment, the takeaway brother has just been legalized. There is only the instinct of thirst for human life. It was also the easiest time to kill him. So Saturday was sunny without the slightest hesitation. Send the 3 true ring sword directly. He didn't want to give the mage any respite. At the same time as the battle between the two began. Hundreds of miles of clouds. Little Beans is also on her way to this place. Count on time. The closest thing to what Manhwa really wrote. It's this takeaway guy. He's going to find this person. By the way, send these 2 descendants of Gao Haoguang. Go to their fellow disciples. All the future will be history. And what is driving history? It is a powerful person in power, or every tiny being that stirs its wings. At this moment, the battle between Saturday Qing and the mage has entered the white meat. Suddenly, a little bee flew past the delivery boy's eyes. But the next moment, the little brother directly opened his mouth and swallowed his breath. Then his cheeks began to applaud exaggeratedly. Immediately after that, a winged humanoid creature breathed out of the mouth. This is a gifted prodigy mastered by the little brother. He can feminize what he swallows. Saturday looked at the sentence in front of me. A monster that looks like him. Speechless. It's like being in the domestic zone. I saw myself who was about to change my face. Go ahead. Saturday Qing directly took the prisoner suspended behind him. All of them have been turned into dozens of Fujin. Go to the Huang Zhengnu exhibition. However, Huang Zhengnu's arm came out of the festival from this time. Directly cut off the oncoming Fujin. On Saturday, Qin Jian snorted coldly. Because his goal was never to be a raging wind. At the same time as it was tired of coping with the crisis in front of him. The number under him has been bypassed in Fujin. Destroy the mage's body. I thought that this would be the end of this battle. Unexpectedly, this wasp has its own Lingji. Spiritual power that breaks through the sky. The punch was blocked by Saturday Qin's horizontal arrow. Mr. Wasp felt it. There was a mountain-like distance on the solid line. A twist that made her uncontrollable in the air. Saturday Qing's swordsman directly clenched his fist and blasted out with all his might. The wasp who resists unreasonably. It was so bombed that it flew out. Meanwhile, Saturday will be scattered captives. The captives condensed on the hilt of the sword. Edgeworth Hall turned into a god. The soul is gone. Like a golden snake lingering. A few tosses. Xia directly beheaded the wasp with the beheading. At this point, the battle was finally over. Put away the artifact. Saturday, Qing turned around and walked towards the takeaway. Now, Human emotions resurfaced in his eyes. The little brother muttered confusedly. He remembered that he was supposed to be delivering food. Then I felt a pain in my heart. I am reminiscing. Suddenly, a strong feeling of weakness struck me. The little brother's voice was eager. He couldn't stop there. If you overtime it expires, you will be deducted. He still has a lot of orders that haven't been delivered. There is also a home waiting for him to raise. Saturday's eyes were full of complexity. Lean over in alignment. I whispered in my ear that it was just a dream. Go back to sleep. Shortly after the sunny departure on Saturday, 100 miles and small beans. The two of them finally arrived here. But now the building is empty. Bailey Yuan smiled elegantly. Fortunately, there is another one who has recently painted as a mage. Then I saw it. A photo of a little boy was pulled out of his phone. This person is the target of Broken Hearts tracking. The year goes back to 530 A.D. At this time, in the depths of this jade soul, a mortal tribe is performing some kind of ritual. And on top of a mountain peak not far from here, a group of seekers from the Wujin Gate, looking at this mortal cave from afar. Suddenly, the man in the bronze mask at the head looked sideways slightly. Chun Shang said towards the void in front of him, I have admired the daimyo for a long time. In the afternoon, the master of the Sword Gate, Sui Yuan, has seen the growth of the 10,000 Laws immortal monarch. As soon as this remark came out, several martial sword sect supremes who were traveling with him were all evil. Hurriedly set his eyes on the void. After the swordsman, the space was flooded with a burst of gorgeous forest clothes. Akiko was faced to everyone. Stand in the center of the jumpsuit. And the big disciples who are traveling with them will be the same. Then use the magic to conjure up the real magic Dao points. As a teacher, he is respectful. A grand opening. Maybe that's it. Will Akiko go out? The reason why I want to bring my big disciples. Xianjun put on the appearance of the three true ancestral masters. When he was prepared, he quietly enjoyed Jiang Tong's praise. Until the years, the master of the door also clapped his hands and praised a few words. Jiang Mingzi glanced back at this person. In a flat tone, he said that you just said that you admired the daimyo for a long time. Is it the first time we've met? Sui Yuan said in a calm tone. It's really the first time I've seen it now. Seeing this, the immortal monarch gradually looked at the famous sun. Qin Shang said that you can. But it made Ben Xianjun feel a sense of déjà vu. The years are still calm. That's an honor under that. The words are full of respect. But in terms of posture, he did not give in at all. Manual mirage. One can be. Void phase for other time periods. A natural phenomenon projected onto the present moment. The legendary Manhwa Holy Tower projected. It's all imaginary phases related to the 10,000 Leaves poetry. Moreover, it will only appear around the time of the arrival of the 10,000 Leaves poet. Sometimes it is the city that has been destroyed in the past. Sometimes it is a phantom of past wars. Sometimes it's just some ordinary people from the past. And sometimes the semblance doesn't just come from the past. The soul of the one sun, immortal monarch, hangs in the air, overlooking the people of the Five Realms Gate at their feet. Chun Sheng opened his mouth and said, There are also 10,000 leaves here. Sui Yuan replied in a calm tone, Yes. Novel and interesting. Ideal monopoly on this secret in relation to the United Kingdom. Xianjun asked. That's right. I love to eat alone. Sui Yuan is still calm. For this reason, he did not hesitate to drive away the various sects that came. This is to make enemies in the entire supernatural world. Xianjun asked again. Defiant. Sui Yuan was calm and a little domineering. Akiko deeply forgot about this person. Does that also include this immortal June? The voice fell. There was silence. Only will be the same. Is still the same appearance of fearing that the world will not be chaotic. After a moment of silence, blindly waved his hand and said, Don't dare to invite the first army. After a farce, two of the top of the world, the heads of the sects stood side by side, far from the mortal tribe under his feet. because he has been attacked and killed by Nirvana corpses many times recently. So they were praying to the gods for protection, although they are all prisoners. And Jiang Tong behind him interjected in everything. But it can bring them bad luck. Aren't you also a Dharma seeker? To this, Sui Yuan just replied. Subsequently, brought the conversation back to the void. It is precisely because of the appearance of this void. Herders like this one seem to have found sustenance. Traces of activity have been made here. The Jiamin group had been observing for many days, but the illusion was not yet fully unfolded. But it can already be seen. 80% of these are from the Holy House of Tomorrow. After listening to Sui Yuan's narration, the virtual image listened. Akiko will also look at it. Transferred to the illusion. It's an illusory figure. The various parts of the figure are shrouded in starlight. Only visible. Only the Zhongkue mask on his face. The year 2025 AD is back. After continuous attempts to break the chain, finally helped the little boy get through the knot. It makes him a true Dharma seeker. At the moment, this body has a premonition of danger. Speed and power have all been greatly improved. Presumably, after becoming a mage, he will be more energetic. Subsequent paragraphs. Xinglian talked about it. Those things that are beyond the knowledge of mortals. And that he is destined to die today. Combined. Become a nirvana master who feeds on human life. The little boy was stunned for a moment. However, he soon accepted the seeker. Mages and supernatural worlds. Right now, he only sighs and is jealous of talent. Duan Xinglian looked at the young man a little strangely. Is this guy really not suspicious at all? Or is this the basic consciousness of the secondary teenager? Then Duan Xinglian talked about himself again. I came here to get rid of the little boy with my own hands. Then you can use it to claim the bounty. But it made him a little unhappy. So asked the little boy, do you have any last words to tell? He can help with the relay. The little boy was a little depressed, but surprisingly understanding. Then he said 7 or 8 wishes in one breath. At this point, the two can be regarded as truly acquainted. The boy's name is Zhang Ting. People Song is nicknamed Brother Ping too. After introducing yourself, Zhang Ting looked at Duan Xinglian with a jealous look in his eyes. He wanted to know the name of the little master. Duan Xinglian was embarrassed by Qinghe twice. Said that my name is Duan Xinglian. The Song dynasty is nicknamed the Soft Rice Layman. What is chivalry? The powerful protect the weak, and the chivalrous. What is a hero? Those who have strength protect thousands of weak people as heroes. What is a hero among heroes? Turn the weak into the strong. He who turns the evil into the good. A hero among heroes. Under some contact. Duan Xinglian is right to this. There is a certain understanding of the genuine products of the super optimist. Same with yourself. This person hit the parents divorced when he was young. Each started a new family. There is little contact with the court. He was brought up almost single-handedly by his grandfather. It's just that his grandfather passed away a year ago. It's just the parents. And Zheng Ping's first hospital. I just want to record a farewell video for my parents. But looking at his appearance, he is quite identious. I hope his parents won't take it as a prank. Don't even bother to click on it. According to Zheng Ping, for as long as he can remember, his grandfather began to use the name of doing the right thing for heaven, in meddling, under the influence of the ears and eyes. Nosy. It has become a habit of life for both grandparents. Duan Xinglian suddenly felt. Zhang Ping in front of him is the kind of person he can't understand. Although it is said that the elimination of evil is also the dawn of the law-seeking world, the value of things can be realistic. Dharma seekers rarely care about the life and death of mortals. Don't talk about crime. Even most of the wars will not be stopped. Although the roommate has heard about it, the more people in the world know about the law, the more mages will appear. Plus the involvement of the seeker. More injuries and deaths will be done. Because of this, a red ditch was drawn with mortal society. But the master and brother also said it. The people of the supernatural world have long held power and power. Most of the people are in the depths of their consciousness, has lost the ability to empathize with mortals. They can't imagine paying off their mortgage. The pain of working overtime late into the night. I don't understand it anymore. The despair of ruining the family due to an illness. Naturally, I can't feel that I am being praised and funny. That little sense of happiness to be recognized. Broken Chain thinks that he is probably such a person. That's why he couldn't understand Jinping. I don't know why. At this moment, it was in Duan Xinglian's mind. The back of the Haoguang patriarch emerged. He wanted to know, what would Patriarch Haoguang think of this kind of person? After that, Duan Xing practiced. Accompany Zheng Ping to finish him before. Speaking of those last wishes. It's a hospital, though, but it's all trivial. For example, to teach the veterans a lesson. Delinquent teenagers who bully people at the gates of their school. And then read it right away. The finale of a basic martial arts novel. Eat durian that I haven't dared to try. Take a look at those. A small movie that always tickles his inner curiosity. I also want to see what a prodigy is. After that, I just want to drive the tank. It's almost dusk when it's all done. The boy solemnly placed the mask in his hand. Give it to Duan Xinglian. This is a relic left to him by his grandfather. It is also Zhang Ting's last wish. He hoped that Duan Xinglian could help take care of it. Then Zhang Ting and Duan Xinglian fell in love. Speaking of the thunder of this Zhong Kue mask. But Grandpa, the story that has been whispered in his ear since he was a child. The story takes place 49 years ago. At that time, my grandfather was still in his hometown of Hebei. One evening in the air. It was raining lightly. There was a beggar in front of my grandfather's house. I want to run and eat. But that year, their family could be said to be a family with four walls. There is simply no surplus food to give to outsiders. In the end, not only did he not give the beggar anything to eat, didn't let him squat under the eaves to shelter from the rain. After that, the beggar had no choice but to run under a large locust tree next door. Wear a mask on your face as if you're going to spend the night. It was a very oppressive night. So the grandfather's family also went to bed early. It's half a day. Suddenly, the mountains shook. The house collapsed. Grandpa's family was pressed under the beams. Difficulty moving. But worse is yet to come. A heavy brick wall collapsed. Pressed towards the family. And just in what they thought. The whole family will die at this time. One man stepped forward. It wasn't that long ago. Also beggars who were called parasites by them. At this moment, the mask on the back of his head was also bleeding. He was also smashed. But he didn't say a word. Pushing the brick wall all the time to stand there. Until dawn. It wasn't until the grandfather's family was rescued that he fell. The beggar was going to die then. Grandpa had asked him why he was like this. But the beggar said he didn't know. On the verge of death, he handed the mask in his hand to his grandfather and instructed him to take good care of it, because this was when he was young, left by a lifesaver, and he himself was a little tired and wanted to continue sleeping. At this point, the life of an unknown warrior was gone. It was that Tongshin, one of the 242,769 kings caused by the earthquake. But it has always been immortal. There are countless people who have stood up to quench their thirst, stood under the wall. They are all true heroes. Grandpa who witnessed all this. It was then that I found my direction in life. Maybe cause and effect don't allow it. But the meek face is over. It has never been the style of my junior true method. The broken chain quietly listened to the genuine product. The reason about the mask in the mouth. Affair. There was something his grandfather had held out all his life. Zhang Ting said that he was a grandson. Naturally, you have to keep up. Keep busy. Continue to be chivalrous. Even though outsiders laugh at their grandchildren for being naive and stupid, but they have a chicken smile as a compliment. Talking and talking. Zhang Ping gradually fell silent. The little boy is optimistic by nature. But Ling's eyes still show reluctance. After a little silence, Zhang Ping sighed deeply. It's better to go to Grandpa early. Maybe it's free, or maybe it's comforting yourself. The broken heart on the side scratched his cheeks unnaturally. He couldn't handle it. Subsequently, the two began to walk aimlessly towards the sunset. Duan Xinglian asked the little boy, "What are you going to do next?" "The case is a case with a look in court. It means that I want to find a place where no one is around. God is jealous of him, but he is optimistic. Soon put this trace of sadness behind me." Full of Shiji's inquiry, Duan Xinglian, if only he could live. "Can I add the little master's house number?" Duan Xinglian's slightly sweaty hand said in English. In fact, he felt that the genuine product was more suitable than himself. Three-needle method. After all, in Duan Xinglian's heart, there is nothing but hatred. It's hard to accommodate any other will. Fortunately, he still has a senior sister. It was his last spear sword. Little Master English. Zhang Ping was very happy. If possible, maybe I can really become a generation of heroes. By that time be sure to make that your joint. Parents who tied it once regretted it. Also gave Grandpa a long face as he spoke. Otherwise, Zhang Ping's mobile phone fell out of his pocket. The next moment, a wisp of causal green fluctuated. Duan Xinglian calmly looked at the boy who leaned over to pick up his mobile phone. And the oncoming car. This is Zhang Ping's dead knot. According to the information given by Peng Lai, away from the Zhang Tinghua mage, there should be a few more hours left. Suddenly, a possibility occurred to him. Death and Huawei mage are not Hua equals. Most of the Huawei mages exist. It was before and after his death that he attracted the true evil of Wanya. But there are a few exceptions. Those exceptions will be after death for quite some time, will come into contact with the true evil of Wanya. And the Zhangting is obviously one of those few exceptions. But he has already become a seeker of the Dharma. I found out about Ing at the first time. Face of the coming crisis. Hurriedly dodged and dodged. But the next moment, the already sleeping driver in the car, hands suddenly and unconsciously slammed into the steering wheel. There's a strange aura of causality. It was as if the court had been targeted by death. Duan Xinglian witnessed everything calmly. He wasn't going to make a move. After all, he was meant to do it himself. It's here to destroy the court. In the opposite court, his body is empty. There is no longer any way to dodge. The car that suddenly reversed direction. All that was left for him was death. At this critical moment, Zhang Ping heard a sound of breaking the air behind him. Immediately afterwards, he was carried by the little master. Escaped the crisis. In this whole process, Duan Xing, love, did not feel a premonition of being threatened by the law of cause and effect. Maybe it's because there are still a few hours left for the real ending of Lai Zhangting. But that eerie aura of causality is still locked. The danger has just begun. The broken chain glanced sideways at Zhangting beside him. Tell me that you don't ask. Why would I do this? I want to answer you with this question between words. The dead knot has come again. A truck full of gas canisters. Drive behind both. The next moment the rope on the car broke. Dozens of gas canisters were dumped towards them. Meanwhile, Genuine Darling's inquiry. Why does the broken chain do this? For this question of Duan Xinglian, there is no answer in my heart. He didn't have the confidence that he could help Zhang Ping escape death. It's just that the meek face of the end is never. It's what they do with the three true dharmas. The voice fell. A few Zhang Fu Lu were thrown out of the show. Under the control of Duan Xinglian, Fu Lu began to spin at high speed. Finally, in front of the two, a thick shield bridge was formed. A coma. Violent explosions rang out. Even the sea began to churn. I can't resist, and the wall in front of me began to crumble. It was simply at the same time that the wall was shattered. The fish wave of the explosion has also subsided. But it seems that the matter is far from over. Several gas canisters that had been blown away by the explosion had their trousers ripped through them. Like missiles. Smashed into the scrap iron boat behind the two of them. Violent explosions. It also destroyed the ship's mechanical arm. And even started to get out of control. Zhang Ping was shocked in his heart. Isn't the two of them a little too unlucky? Duan Xinglian regained the bandit in his heart. But right now, he can't be allowed to stay. At the moment of Duan Xinglian's first month, countless scrap metal was thrown out by the runaway robotic arm. In an instant, the two of them were shrouded in the iron tools in the sky. Duan Xinglian didn't panic in the slightest when he saw this. His feet slammed down. Under this amazing explosive force, the two of them smoothly escaped from the area covered by scrap metal. But the Grim Reaper still seems to refuse to let go of the genuine product. Rounded blades with sea stone spikes, attacking head-on towards the main court that had just landed. It's just at the moment of approaching, firmly grasped by the broken star chain. The phone slipped. Drowsy driving. Liquefied gas explosion. Scrap iron ship. Crane accidents are all clearly causally linked. So what's next? You know how rebellious Bailey Yuan's natural supernatural powers are. It can affect the established cause and effect that should not change. At this moment, Duan Xinglian is replacing the main court. After blocking many deaths, the boy finally understood. All these accidents came at him. Let's talk about it. Zhang Ping clenched his fists and bowed solemnly to the little master, and said that even if he really became an evil teacher in the end, he will not forget this kindness. Faced with the boy's true feelings, broken heart love, but said, I just want to practice with him, because he knows it deeply. Even if the great supernatural power of cultivating the mind for 100 years is standardized into a mage, it's hard to keep your heart. Not to mention the small one who barely achieves the Dharma. The only thing that can help him is the only one who can help him, even before its consciousness was swallowed up by French instinct. Ban it. And the other side. Just when the two of them left the area, after the seaside covered with scrap metal, in some inconspicuous corner, a small steel ball, it's like being pushed by some kind of force, rolled into the sewer. Then he went down the water. Move in a certain direction. He's getting faster and faster. Suddenly, a raised steel ball appeared in front of him. Jump out of the water. After tossing and turning, the sewer was drilled out. Eventually, he found the original. A passerby walked by, kicked the ball away, re-energized him. Flying steel balls. Ran straight into a basketball stuck on a fork in a tree. Driven by this force, the basketball broke away from the fork. Accurately smash it towards the main lawn under the tree. Fortunately, it was discovered by the broken star chain and punched away. After resisting the dead not again. Broken star chain is a little suspicious. Was it really an accident this time? If not, isn't that a little smaller? What he didn't know, however, was the basketball seemed to be guided. Precisely fell into the hands of a man. The person in front of you. It's genuine. A real catastrophe. Bai Liyuan smashed the basketball in his hand. He at the moment. There was an unprecedented ability in his eyes. Because he saw it. The mask buried deep in memory. And the person in front of you. A mana field emanating from within the primordial spirit. He was also incredibly familiar. Gradually, Bailey Yuan's expression turned cold. Why is this person 3? The 3-needle method of the successor of the chastity method. Do you know what you're attracting? Bailey Yuan was silent for a long time. In a period of time when cause and effect are undetermined. He doesn't remember reminding himself. Now I also appeared. But that's it. Things seem to be getting incredibly interesting. Bailey Yuan smiled thoughtfully. Then he instructed the little lion beside him. Quickly notify the encounter. Then I'm going to get unusually weak. You need to have reliable armor. Zayashizi still exclaimed nonsensically, Mom. Boss, have you bought insurance? Whether the beneficiary wrote a pebble. Bai Liyuan ignored the ridicule of his disciples. Because he's going to do it next. The spells cast are too cumbersome. Second only to the initiation of the Third World War and the Convergence. The little lion is polite, and his voice is weak. I saw that Bailey Yuan was no more. Without the slightest hesitation, she blasted her head into a meat woman. It was his gift. The prodigy has no self in the law. Every penny of flesh that was shattered. all contain infinite urine. It is broken down into an infinite number and aggregated into 3. Finally vanished into the void. Brought a wisp of consciousness from Bailey Yuan to other places. They span infinity close, or infinitely far away, emerge in that different time and space, and entered into the consciousness of the 3 beings. These 3 people have the years of the Akiko period. There is a doorbolt that was dug out during the Gaohaguang period, and suicides during the period of the Lord of Life and Death. These people are all from Bailey Yuan's previous life. In his own words, it's all me. It's all me and it's not me. At the moment when Bailey Yuan exerted his magical powers, in the minds of 3 people at different times. At the same time, there is an extra piece of information. The location is a sacred place in ancient times. Time is with life and death. 3,071 years after the first encounter between the lords of the mountains and rivers, we found all the soulmates, all the preludes to support Manhwa Nirvana. And he's still a 3-stitch method. Descendants of the door. You know how strong this man is in front of you. He pinched his own head with his own hands, just to give to those who existed in the past. Self in different time periods. Pass a star. And there was a difference in consciousness in Bailey Yuan, located in the unified soul of 530 AD. Zhang Mingzi standing beside the years. I sensed the fluctuation of that wisp of the law of cause and effect. His eyes were still fixed on the needs in the distance. It seems to be a casual opening, and the road is far away. The master of the door is actually possessed by the magic of cause and effect. I don't know what I just did. Ben Xianjun was a little curious. Then he knew it from afar. Zhang Mingzi asked why. He had just received the wisp. By being in the future of the 100-mile garden. That is, the message of the future himself. And the resulting fluctuation of the law of cause and effect. So it was a coincidence. I'm also a little curious. Demonstrate that you do not have a causal identity. Then he said that he had just made up a hexagram, and learned that this mirage will soon be able to unfold. Illusion until then. There will be key information about the birth of Kazuha in advance. This explains the fluctuation in causality. Will Mingzi slightly sweat his hands? The chuckle came to the sound funny. It's just that there is something meaningful in this smile. At this moment, the years are staring at the blurred image that is becoming clearer and clearer. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart, Zhang Mingzi, Zhang Mingzi. Everything you and I should have thought of is inevitable. The year 2025 AD is back. Bailey Yuan stared at Duan Xinglian in the distance. I said a skull pain. But he's not referring to the real brain case. It's because the cost of this transmission is too great. If you want to recover early, isn't it enough to just absorb the vitality of mortals? With that, he raised his hand and pointed towards Duan Xing. A monstrous little beast separated. He wanted to seize the body of this little junior disciple of the 3 truths first. Take it home and study it. At the moment when the little beast flew out, a lady broke through the air. Freeze it straight through. And this one who threw out the blade. It's from Saturday when I came to find a little brother. His tone was cold. Question this great supernatural from the 9 Swords sect. What are you going to do with my little practice? Bailey Yuan smiled kindly and said, young man, don't you wait until 10 days later? Feel the cold killing intent in these words. Saturday love, although the heart is empty. But he pretended to be calm and spoke. I advise your excellency to withdraw as soon as possible. I had already figured out the backstage before I came here. The Noodle Man is the big boss of Panglai. And it's instantaneous. The truth is that Saturday is fine. The people who had only sent the message to Haishan a moment earlier. For now, I just hope that this person will know the difficulties and retreat. And the man in front of him. It always gives Saturday Ching a very weird feeling. Like a mage. But I can't feel the slightest moisture on my body. But he was much weaker than when I first met. However, at the same time as Saturday, there were many thoughts about it. Bai Liyuan turned around and left. The mirror image is really bluffed. The little bean on the side said facelessly. The master is so able to bend and stretch. Let his face as a disciple be gloomy. But at the moment when Bai Liyuan turned around, a small beast emerges. Subsequently, Bai Liyuan directly poked his arm into the little beast's mouth. The next moment, the space next to Saturday began to distort. Then a huge hand poked out of it, directly shroud it to run. Be vigilant on a sunny Saturday. Dodge the giant hand at the same time. The back space struck towards the Bai Liyuan body. However, at the moment when it flew out, Bai Liyuan flashed to his side. Fourth, raise your hand as usual, and then keep it draped. Caught off guard, Saturday Qing can only protect his hands in the seat in front of him. The sound of resistance was heard like a mountain. He was knocked straight down by the blow, but under the cover of smoke and dust. On Saturday, the sunny sky quickly retreated, pulled away from what he thought was safe. At this moment, his arm was visibly twisted. Even if the great supernatural is much weaker, you're still not what he is now. Seeing that Bai Liyuan was approaching again, Saturday Qing endured the pain and threw out a handful of prisoners. Sharp weapons were transformed. Attack towards the 100 miles of abyss. This is the 3-needle boundary package method of their 3-needle method. Can face this heavenly blade. Bai Liyuan just raised his hand and grabbed it towards the void. Those rays were reverted to captivity. And then break. You know how terrifying Bai Liyuan's strength is. When it comes to the brain case, you can still make enemies. 6-tier A combatants with natal powers. Facing the sharp blades on display on Saturday's sunny day, Bai Liyuan just raised his hand casually. Grab at the void. Then the light universe was re-captive. Subsequently breakage. However, he still underestimated Saturday Qing's angle. Just when he was captured by the sky, a moment that obscured the view. Another divine red swept past Bai Liyuan's side, towards the pebbles behind him. Bai Liyuan just glanced sideways, jokingly quipped, "This is Zayashizi's perennial neglect of cultivation. Retribution is coming." Pebble had no time to pay attention. Xin and Xin dodged this episode. But in the end, a few strands of hair were cut off. On Saturday, the sunny body was unveiled. Directly put those strands of hair, thrown into the mouth of the guilty dumb. Seeing this, Zayashizi dug and cried directly. He shouted for the master to write on his tombstone. Zayashizi's master can't even save his apprentice. Stupid too. Bai Liyuan smiled helplessly at Saturday Love. Say what? My apprentice is cute. Saturday was silent. Although he knew, this girl is very important to the man in front of her. But it can be felt. This person is the type who looks down on life and death. Saturday Qing can be sure that he has no money now. Gu negotiated terms with him. Come to think of it, Saturday Qing put away the dumb with sin. He also hated threatening the lives of others. Forced to be weak himself. Seeing this, the pebble jumped up happily on the spot. Shouted at my sister to cheer up. Down with my master. Meanwhile, a few divine souls broke through the air. Smoothly fell behind Saturday Qing. It is the 5 people who sit in the Shanghai God group. Class A combatant. Anyone who can be listed as a Class A combatant by the divine group. They are all top-notch existences. Each of these 5 people has acupuncture points. And without exception, they all awaken their natal prodigies. Several people even work together to kill one. A mage turned into a supernatural person. And with Saturday Qing, who is also a Class A combatant. It's also an old acquaintance. Just in the middle of a few people's greetings. The maid lady on the side uses her natal prodigy, Jizhou Lu Qin, treated the severely twisted right arm. Meanwhile, the bald uncle stopped pointing to Bai Liyuan. Lung Sheng Jiwen. They found out. Someone used supernatural powers to infiltrate the Shikigami group base. He even retrieved information about the recent arrival of True Blood. They want to find out what the purpose of this person is. But Bai Liyuan ignored it completely. It's just a casual swap out of a selfless avatar. Let the pebble next to you go to sleep first. Seeing that this person is so unmistakable, Song Ping was a little annoyed. Although the person in front of him is a great supernatural person, But since it provoked the Shanghai Shisheng clan, then they can only be regarded as mages and tyrants. And just when they were ready to make a move, the only Saturday love that has seen the strength of Bailey Yuan. Words to remind. The great supernatural also has the handle of the tongue. Guess which one you have? The meaning of the word. The person in front of him is not an ordinary supernatural person. Musfin in the comparable crowd is cold and filial. Well, he seems to have been seriously injured. And at this time, walk with the pebble into my body has always been committed to the 100 miles of abyss. Did Chun Sheng speak? The game choices are none of your side. But it's just right to use the vitality you drop, step by step to replenish the blood. The pronunciation is square. The selfless incarnation of the pebble, gone in an instant, left the place. Meanwhile, Song Ping took the lead in launching the offensive. There was not the slightest thing left. Directly cast the natal supernatural power. Mortgage repayment. After being shrouded in this supernatural power, as long as it is an outsider who is hated by Song Ping, you will feel the squeeze of space. And the people outside the room, unable to perceive everything in the room, 100 miles deep in it. At this moment, it is like sinking into a bottomless abyss. But the crowd didn't know. The person in front of him is from the abyss. Seeing that Bailey Yuan was shrouded by the tree law, the rest of the people also cast their natal prodigies. The green-haired boy's name is Deng Xian. Its natal spirit is so micro. You can put the one who has endangered yourself. Come out and use it online from memory. Followed by the mating Nu. His natal god is known as the 7-colored divine needle man. 7 magical potions that can change the properties of the body. Musfin's natal avatar is an enhanced interface. Through the lethality of its supernatural powers, weapons are greatly enhanced. All attacks that threaten the crowd. And it didn't hit the Bailey people directly. Rather, it is concentrated towards the top 5 champions in life. Because of his natal supernatural powers, he kills the heart shifter. Can damage self with no killing intent, doubling the transfer to where the enemy is. However, it will also take some damage. You know. How terrifying is the strength of this man in front of him. He got the brain case. Even immediately. 6 rank A battles with natal powers. With the irrigation of many magical powers of teammates. It was Wu Zhong who couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of blood. However, it was bought at the cost of bullets. But it can multiply the damage of teammates' supernatural powers, and then transferred to Bai Liyuan's body. Facing the surging spells in the sky, Bailey Yuan just replaced 2 sentences of selfless incarnation. One of them, the avatar's mouth was as if there was a black hole, with non-kinetic desire. The sky-high spell was cited as a point of suction. Then he disappeared into the appendage of the avatar. Song Ping and the others were all dignified when they saw this. This object looks similar to a magic weapon. It should be a kind of artifact that uses the natal god. Carried and used. The spell in the air between the words has been incarnated. Suck it clean. It's just that now he is trembling. Apparently engulfing so much energy at once. It's a bit reluctant for this thing. Under the control of Bailey Yuan. Another sentence. The avatar spits out a spirit and envelopes it. Then it sprayed to the side. That you am I. There were 5 of them. A strike of power for Class A combatants. In the end, it turned into a brilliant firework. The incarnation of that sentence is also seen in this firework. Song Ping's face became even more gloomy. The person in front of him gave him the feeling that he was very evil. For Dharma seekers, as long as it's a powerful magic weapon, every one of them must be. Inject legal nourishment all the time. It's like invading a child who has nourished blood. What kind of cold-bloodedness the hell? Will casually treat the child as a run-back and, or rather, this is not his child at all. Felt the horror of the opponent. It was the gods who discussed that they would act first. Wait until you get the body tissue of Bailey Yuan. Then it was up to Saturday Qin to give it a fatal blow. For the decision of the people of the Godhead. Saturday Chin expressed understanding. These 5 people have cooperated for many years. An unspeakable tacit understanding has been established. That's when he was joined by an outsider. Instead, it will mess them up. And as long as you can get 100 miles, body tissues of sufficient size, he didn't even have to fight it. Hide within 100 kilometers of it. Kill several times a day with a dumb with sin. Even if it's a great supernatural master. Sooner or later, he will be killed by one of his supernatural powers. With Songbing and others exploding again, there was a roar in the barrier. Fighting on both sides is almost all over it. Everywhere I went, there were sores. And a void not far from the barrier. A little beast that competes for spirits seems to sense something, or fly in a certain direction. This thing is before. The selfless incarnation that was thrown out by Bailey Yuan. Since the body can't pull away for the time being. Then he was in charge of finding the one. Sanjin's little junior brother. At this moment, Bailey Yuan's mind is in his mind. It emerged more than 1,000 years ago. The void of the holy dragon that I saw in the soul of earth desire. This person is the trump card. And you have to control the deck. Meanwhile, in that faraway city of the 9 realms, the contemporary 9 realms gate is the main minister. The implication is that he walked in front of a headless corpse. This person's natal powers has the property of absorbing damage. It was captured by Bailey Yuan before. Now he died suddenly. It should have exceeded the limit of injury. Xiang Yueying sighed helplessly. Obviously, not long after he recovered, he went to cause trouble again. Unfortunately, after receiving a message from Little Bean, Xiang Yueying sent 2 Supremes to support. I thought it would take less than half an hour to arrive. But the headache is, Peng Lai over there. An extremely powerful mana was also discovered. Field debut. Although it is not possible to detect the image of the person, but to have such a strong strength. I'm afraid there are only 2 sides of the main seamount of Peng Lai Island, and the direction it goes to is also Shanghai. This little boy in front of you will turn into a zombie after a few hours. The broken chain follows all the way, and help it prevent many deaths. But unexpectedly, it really brought death to the boy. But it is the broken chain itself. The battle between Bailey Yuan and the people of the World God Group is still ongoing. Going on is oddly enough. No matter how several people attacked, Bailey Yuan did not fight back. I just know how to blindly avoid. And this guy, there is always a perfect match between several people. Find the flaws, and slipped out of it. Seeing being played like this, everyone was helpless at the same time. I also felt a deep humiliation. Song Ping angrily erected 2 standard international friendly gestures. Mu Siwen on the side was keenly aware. The person in front of him is consuming them. That's right, Bai Liyuan is indeed consuming them. Because behind the Shanghai divine ancestor, there is the shadow of Peng Lai and Qianji Tube. If Bailey Yuan presents his true appearance, with a great supernatural power that is not available today, receive the words of a few people, then his mana field must be detected. Although Qian Jigwen and Peng Lai have long been suspicious, there is an intersection between the 9 Swords Gate and the Nirvana. But as long as you don't make a big deal out of it, neither side will be picky. Everybody's there, waiting for an opportunity to take control of the future. Obviously, the boy who is related to Manhwa Shursen is. It's just not sure whose opportunity it belongs to. And the other side, Duan Xinglian is still accompanied by the genuine product, walking aimlessly on the familiar streets. Both of them are waiting for the destiny to come, but it seems to be after the basketball falls. And there was no attack. On this, Duan Xinglian's explanation is that destiny also has to rest. Zhang Ting has no choice but to work with such a fearful life. It's better to be dead, as long as you don't become a cannibal living corpse. And he also swore that he would, even if you really become a mage. I won't eat people. Naturally, they will not choose to hurt small things. It's hard to say complicated in my eyes. But he said it mercilessly. I was worried. That's it. If the righteous court is after Nirvana, don't have the talent to fight with him, what should he do with his practice? After that, he reminded Zhang Ting again and again. I came here to kill him. Zhang Ting was silent for a moment after hearing this. You can see it. He's not as free and easy as he says. But in the end, he talked about it. Even if he really became a living teacher, even if the little master really wants to kill himself, he didn't want to fight back. One is because the broken chain has saved his life many times. However, how can walking the rivers and lakes take revenge? And that's the second one. It's the little master I just met. In fact, it was his first friend. Although the genuine product is very cheerful on the surface, he looks heartless. But in fact, he is very lonely inside. Now Grandpa is gone. There is no intersection with his parents all year round. But no matter how lonely he was, he could only face it with a smile. So I always laugh heartlessly. Over time, it became a habit. However, what Masahei doesn't know. For broken sexuality. This boy who was destined to be beheaded by himself. It was also his first friend. And just as the two were talking, the selfless incarnation that was thrown out by Bailey Yuan. Eventually, they were found. Subsequently, this incarnation first spits out the pebbles in the body. Then he directly broke through the air and went to Duanxing to practice. He was going to take everything from the young man. Keep this trump card firmly in your own hands. However, this scene happened to be seen by the biased Zhang Ting. Without the slightest hesitation, directly pushed the little master away. But he couldn't dodge. Eroded by the selfless incarnation that broke through the sky. The tentacles are like blood vessels. Integrate into the body of the court. Began to take everything from him by force. Broken Love looked at it numbly. An extreme wave of emotion began to emerge in his eyes. Zhang Ting, who fell to the ground, slowly got up. It's just that he is now. There was an aura of agreement all over the body, apparently controlled by the strange little shackles. Zhang Pingtian turned his head towards Duan Xinglian. A twisted smile was revealed, and said softly, "Your name is Duan Xinglian, right? How about making a friend?" However, it was Duan Xinglian's head-on speaker who responded to him. This palm directly slapped out the little beast in the main court. At the same time that the little beast broke away from its host, Duan Xinglian broke through the air and smashed it with another punch. "After everything is done," he said with a blank face and a roll-off. However, there was murderous intent in his eyes. But it's chilling. Duan Xinglian knew it clearly. This thing came to find him. But he never thought that in the end, the court would die because of saving him. What is the great man of chivalry? For the country and the people. In Duanxing practiced Jiangnan. After the little beast that occupied Zhang Ting's body blasted out of the body, the little boy's life seemed to have come to an end. On the occasion of confusion, Zhang Ting's mind flashed through his short life. Think about it. But it felt as if there was nothing to recall. The only thing that lingers. There are only days when I am nosy with my grandfather. It was in Zhang Ting's short life. The happiest time. I don't know why. Now he really wants to go to his grandfather sooner. And for the weak self at the beginning. No, I told my grandfather. He will never forget. That day, the grandfather and grandson stared at a suspected abductor. So they followed suit. In the end, it turned out that this time it was an iron plate to kick. A large human trafficking gang. That's not a gangster asking for money at the school gate. Not to mention petty thieves and perverts. It's the ordinary big bag they can't do anything about. So this time, the grandfather and grandson decisively called the police. However, while waiting for the police car, the grandfather and grandson saw a scene that was like hell. I saw that these people were abnormal. Familiar with turning right to the child. Dark city color. Obligations that are not in their liking. The connection was knocked to the leg bone. Then the cornea was also removed. Grandpa was furious when he saw this. This was a bunch of brutes. It's a demon that is even dirtier than Nirvana. Anger turned into courage. Grandpa instructed Zhang Ting. Tell him to quickly find some passers-by to help. Then he rushed in. Zhang Ting at that time. I was completely stupefied by the hell in front of me. Immediately run to the streets. Shouted out to all the passers-by he saw. But sometimes as long as the grandfather and grandson help others, there will be many strong men to help. And sometimes everyone will hide far away. The court is small. I am not in a position to accuse them. Because he was also because of his grandfather's words. There are also excuses to escape and dare not go back to sea. They are not the only ones who are sown. Zhang Ting himself is just relying on the enemy is not strong. A fake that dares to shoot. Zhang Ting stood in the street for a long time. The sirens finally sounded. When he came back with the police. But I saw that this place was already in shambles. The old man, covered in blood, knelt on one knee. And beside it, more than a dozen traffickers collapsed to the ground. The mourning continues. Although tens of millions of people have no past. But as a chivalrous man, the old man deserves it. A box. The bruised grandfather patted Zhang Ting's shoulder. Smiled and said, "It's good that your kid is not here. No one gets in the way. It's just the right time to use your fists and feet." Zhang Ting knew that this was his grandfather comforting him. But such a comfort. But it made him fall into deeper accusations. It is also because of this incident. Grandpa fell ill. He died in the hospital shortly after. After that, Zhang usually thinks about it. If only he had been there to help at the time. If you really have the ability to change the past. He wanted to go back to that time and copy the guys with his grandfather. Fight with them. Even if it's yourself. This kind of is in martial arts stories. He who is worthy only to be called a miscellaneous fish. I really want to be a UK. Is it just that the heroes still have a chance? With a twist of space. The flame of life in the main court was also extinguished at this moment. Immediately after that, a drop of red mini-true blood descended. Zhang Ting for life. I understand the ending that has already appeared. Became a Nirvana master with no humanity. The broken chain faced all this calmly. He was powerless to change the ending of Zhang Ping. The only thing he could do. Only in its realization. Before the extreme thirst for life. Mirror it. Avoid extreme emotions brewing. It's not for the genuine product in front of you. It's the heavenly hatred of the king of Nirvana. Dodge Zhang Ping's spiritual power opinion. Duan Xinlian hurriedly jumped up and wanted to distance himself from him. However, Zhang Ping's backhand slash was already approaching. Helpless. Duan Xinlian had no choice but to swing his magic weapon arm seat to resist. Although it fell, but that domineering steel side, there were still a few blood marks on his face. At the same time as Duan Xing practiced the party sword, Zhang Ping came with a sword piercing again. Duan Xing practiced one-handed pinching. Tu Fu Lu transformed into iron armor and protected them in front of him. Unexpectedly, it was directly pierced. Blood splattered at the same time. The broken star chain is also firmly locked in the hands of the Zhang Ting. Draw the sword and iron fist, as if containing the earth-shattering violent. The knot smashed solidly into Zhang Ting's waist. Attack it at the same time. Iron fist transforms into form. Transform it into a divine soul and protect it. With Duan Xing's fierce return trip, the body is emptied. Again. Was uncontrollably pulled back to Duan Xinglian's body. At the same time, Duan Xinglian called the police. The dragon's iron fist was now in a catastrophe. Directly cut off the head of the main court. The battle is over. The broken chain sat beside Zhang Ting and was silent for a long time. Gradually, the sun rises. The madness in Zhang Ting's eyes began to fade. He looked at the little master in front of him, like to say something. But I hesitated for a long time. But I found that I couldn't seem to think of no. An awkward night has come to this. Duan Xinglian completed the goal of the trip. The early morning breeze blows. It seems to take Zhang Ping to find his grandfather. Duan Xinglian whispered to the breeze. Help me get a message to the old man. Your grandchildren are good. Bon voyage. Zhang Daxia from Saturday. It's a 3-stitch method. The hottest door owner in history. his greatest passion. It's a little junior brother who likes to tease himself, and the natal supernatural powers that he himself has mastered. Where possible, it can even kill the great god attack. At this moment, as the consciousness of the main court dissipated, Duan Xinglian burned his stump that had been ritualized. A scene in between. An irrepressible surge. But suddenly, Duan Xinglian covered his chest stiffly. Right now, all he felt was poking his internal organs, especially the heart. It was as if there were countless bugs spinning. Over time, the pain has finally subsided. So Duan Xinglian decided to go to his senior sister to meet first. That's when he was. A break in the sky struck, fell straight behind him. A puff of smoke and dust at the same time. A strong sense of oppression surged. Break the heart and refine the heart sutra. The feeling that someone came to him is even above Shangwan Shao at the beginning. As the smoke cleared, the figure of Bailey Yuan emerged from it. His clothes were in tatters at the moment. He also held a bloody head in his hand. He greeted Duan Xinglian with a smile. Long time no see. But let's be exact, we only met it not so long ago. Rewind to a recent past. In the enchantment formed by Song Ping's natal supernatural powers. It was the 5 members of the Protoss who fought with Bailey Yuan all night. But this guy is always on the dodge. It made everyone very angry. Song Ping shouted directly. Support for other weaving will be available soon. Drag it out a little longer and see how you die. Let respond to them. But it was a gasoline barrel that was slapped back by Bailey Yuan. You can see it. Bailey Yuan still didn't want to fight. Deng Xian just glanced sideways and turned his head to dodge. But at the moment when the oil drum flashed past him, a monstrous little beast suddenly sprang out of the barrel. At the last moment, Jiwu, who was beside him, pushed him away. Failed the trick of Bailey Yuan. Deng Xian threw out a Tu-Lu with his backhand. At the same time as the little beast was slashed, Qin Sheng opened his mouth and said, "Do you think? That guy is getting stronger." However, before Deng Xian finished speaking, a consciousness burst into his body, began to take everything from him. It turned out that Jiwu beside him. I don't know when it has been controlled by Bai Liyuan. Feel the moment of mortal danger again. Deng Xian finally used the natal prodigy. A few strands of hair were sent towards the location of the teammate. The send-off people are a little unclear. Hurriedly set his eyes on Deng Xian and the others. But I saw that the expressions on their faces were distorted at this moment. Apparently there is no consciousness of oneself anymore. And the other side, after seizing Deng Xian's natal supernatural powers, Bailey Yuan directly unfolded with full force. Swap out all the things that have harmed Deng Xian. However, no nuclear weapons were found. Bai Liyuan felt a little disappointed. It seems that this kid is not confident to do it. The dangers posed by nuclear weapons. Saturday's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. If you let it go, make every effort to display Deng Xian and Jiwu's natal divine caste. I don't know how many mortals will suffer because of this. Otherwise, he will look at it. Turn to the little beast that had been killed by Deng Xian before, and the last few strands of hair he sent back. I can't say for sure. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. But now it can only be the previous life. With guilt, Dumb swallowed the 2 in one go. Saturday Kun directly drew his sword and slashed off the sword of 100 miles. The cold student scoffed. The little beast was nothing more than the embodiment of his supernatural powers. It is not your own body tissue. And there's it in it. He collected it freshly. It's the hair and blood of the members of the god formation. He wanted to see who was the one who planted the roots. The painting has just fallen. Countless swords. The mist grew over his body. The clothes on by Li Yuan's body shattered instantly. The mage's body is tough though. But he was still cut out of more than a dozen blood marks by Saturday Love. Bailey Yuan's expression revealed disbelief. Suddenly, he remembered Deng Xian before he lost his reason. Put the 100 miles that have endangered him. Draw it out using the natal god call. Although it can only be drawn to the extent of the silk. But this hand is really beyond Bai Liyuan's expectations. And he also misjudged his ability to have a Saturday stand. Dumb for sin. Never only attack the bin. Enemies identified by the loser. And, right now, there are still a lot of hair left in the hands of Saturday Love. Then his current mana was enough to cast 7 or 8 times. The same position with the guilty dumb was beheaded 7 or 8 more times. Rouse Bailey Yuanpa. It's also a bit hard to top. Pretty reliable. The sea and mountains Liang Linjin screamed and fell to the big head. Back then, the one was trying to escape. The son of Peng Lai who got married and ran away from home. Grow from this year. It is enough to change the color of the supernatural world. The surging supreme. Now, Saturday Qing relied on her natal powers. Confront Bailey Yuan. But suddenly, the hair in his hand that belonged to Bailey Yuan. It began to disappear. This thing was conjured up by Deng Xian's supernatural powers. At the moment, it seems that the statute of limitations has expired. Seeing this, Mu Siwen beside him did not hesitate at all. Directly cast supernatural powers. Killed Deng Xian, who was controlled by Bailey Yuan. Yu Jiwu too. Although it was known that these two people were powerless. You can kill your teammates with your own hands. It still made everyone sad and indignant. With the fall of Deng Xian, his deprived natal powers began to dissipate. Even Bailey Yuan couldn't help but admire. Earl of Musfin. But alas, the things that have been conjured up are still by him. The detonation of the lifetime of the earthquake exploded. The terrifying power swept towards several people. And the wisdom in the team simply stood up. He makes use of domineering skills. Blocked the explosion of enemy waves for his teammates. But the barrier in the air was no longer resistible. Hidden in the flames. Although it canceled out most of the might. But the energy that surged out from within. Or turned this place into a vacuum in an instant. The clouds in the sky were shaken away. The 100-mile abyss inside was revealed. At this moment, he is not only intact. Even the blood stains on his body have been restored. The crowd was shocked. Caught in an explosion of this magnitude. He didn't even lose a single hair. But that's not all. After losing the suppression of the enchantment. At this moment, the fatality that emanated from Bailey Yuan's body. The feeling of oppression was enough to suffocate several people. Facing the current Bailey Yuan is a god race. A few people didn't see the slightest chance of winning. So Song Ping proposed to evacuate the place quickly. The current situation. No one can interfere under the notice of the great god. But obviously, Bai Liyuan didn't want to give them a chance to live. Otherwise, even the FA will investigate when the time comes. It will cause him a lot of trouble. In the face of Bai Liyuan's fierce offensive, several people could only fight and retreat. But even if they use all means. At first, it was difficult to resist. Musfin was directly decapitated. Just when a few people thought they were going to die. Bailey Yuan sensed the arrival of Wanya's true blood. He no longer paid attention to the crowd. Look into the distance. Calculate carefully. It's almost to that flat head. It's time for the kid to melt away. In order to avoid broken star chains. Eliminated the hidden traces of the main court. Bai Liyuan decisively gave up the rest. Fly towards the place where Kazuha's true blood is. But on Saturday, Qin Jian felt a strong uneasiness. Because of this guy. I originally came here for the little junior brother. And the other side. Duan Xinglian from the man in front of him. Much is heard in the words of men. He was the owner of the beast from before. It was he who led to the death of the court. The expression of the broken chain turned cold. A stony killing intent spilled out of its body. Bailey Yuan saw this. They couldn't help but sigh at the spiritual power of this killing intent. It seems that this little junior brother of Sanjit. More than just mages. Even the living have been killed. It's really unseemly. As soon as the words fell, his figure suddenly disappeared in place. The broken chain was heard behind him. An icy voice was heard. There's something strange in your body. It's better to educate me about the body and keep it. There is a huge difference in strength between the two. There is no room for rebellion. Was controlled by Li Yuan. Meanwhile, immediately followed by Saturday Essay's ornament feeling. His eyes were bloodshot at the moment. His expression was extremely gloomy. Li Yuan restrained himself with pleasure on his face when he saw this. Duan Xinglian's hand even drew meridians. Began to melt into his body. Feel the terror of the enemy. Duan Xinglian was eager to ask senior sister to stop. He shouted hoarsely. But at this moment, I don't care about Saturday at all. There was only hysterical madness in his eyes. The next moment, the valley was filled with water and air. This heaven and earth were directly enveloped by this water vapor. Everything in this place, including time, is frozen in an instant. From a distance, a handful of flowers were unfurled in the sky above this heaven and earth. It's just that this is called the size of the flower. As if it could cover the sky. You know, how strong is the amount of seamount of the person who has achieved great supernatural powers. Thoroughly mastered. Even cherry blossom green is helpless against it. It's in the mountains at the moment. Take advantage of a moment. Changsheng said that the flower settled in the 100 miles of abyss at the same time. Not far from here, on the East China Sea. The vast sea seems to have been stirred by someone. Countless whirlpools have been formed. Apparently there was a shock just here. Heavenly wars. And on a reef in the center of the sea, standing stood two old men who were blue in the mountains. At this moment, he said with palpitations that it was dangerous. I didn't expect to run into that villain halfway. I thought it would just be a little waiting. I never thought that I would almost give an account of our lives. Fortunately, one of the two has mastered the natal supernatural power. You can target one or two for sea and mountain birds. And after this fight, they are more certain. Seamount birds. He is already the #1 enemy of their 9 realms gate. And both. It was led by Xiang Yu. Send 2 9 realm gate supremes to support Li Yuan. Return barefoot to another battlefield. Under the shroud of a moment of immortal flowers. The speed of time in this world. Slowed down to the point of near forbidden. There are only seamounts. Feed on droplets of water that fill the air. Jumped in front of a few people. Haishin glanced at Li Yuan coldly. Then pinch repeatedly. The next moment, dozens of blessings followed behind him. Slow to forgiveness. Head towards the center of the 100 miles west of the Yuan. But at the moment when he was about to touch the 100 miles of abyss, a wave of causality fluctuated suddenly. Then his body began to grind. By the time it appeared, it was already time to fly out. But under this called flower, he couldn't get rid of the lock of the sea and mountain bird at all. Li Yuan knows this very well. Illustrate a sentence. A selfless incarnation that stores the natal powers of others. With the petals splitting, turned into several clones of hundreds of miles. They scattered and fled. But Hai Shanliao just raised his hand and looked towards the void. The slowness of the spells in the sky. In an instant, a few sentences were entwined. In an instant, the doppelganger fell. Only the head of Li Yuan's body did not go back. Now, he must get out of the area shrouded by the so-called flower as quickly as possible. Here the speed of time between the two is different. He will always have to be beaten. Come to mind. Li Yuan once again showed it. A new kind of natal prodigy. He turned himself into a fish. No more flying out of the umbrella. Instead, he fell straight down the mountain, near the water. He also proudly raced towards Haishin Liao. Plop into the sea with a plop. At the time of its appearance, it had already crossed half the city. This magical path can teleport between liquids instantaneously. But not yet. Li Yuan is happy. Another sound of breaking water sounded. The slowness of forgiveness followed. Li Yuan's expression changed greatly when he saw this. However, it was too late. He has been firmly locked by the sea and mountain birds. He was not given the slightest chance to struggle. The dungeon is coming. Earned Li Yuan back alive. You can even vaguely hear a disaster. Come back to you. At the same time, the spring flowers are showering. The sea and the mountain stand on top of the tree law, slowly treading the waves and walking in. And on the other hand, Bailey Yuan. He was entangled by Jimon. The body begins to grow old visibly. It's not being sucked into life. It's the seamount, sped up the time tassel acting on him. With the flowers blooming full of branches, Bailey Yuan's body withered instantly. A few breaths. It was as if he had finished his life. Seeing this, Haishin also proudly missed yes. Bai Li Yuan smiled self-deprecatingly and praised it in his old voice. Seize time and bloom. Flowers create things and feed life. What a surging supernatural power. But I remember that you have expressed it. Pasher didn't want to meet in person. The two temples of Haishin nodded helplessly. None of what is said below is true. It's just a line to see you here. You give me a sense of familiarity. With that, his expression began to change to determination. But Bai Liyuan seems to be more and more bottlenecked, and said that it was just an illusion. The sea and mountain birds are asking the sir. Why did you want to do it to that kid? Bailey asked rhetorically. Do you want to be a door with yourself? Pi irrelevant teenagers. Don't hesitate to do the right thing. Is it the strongest way to declare war? Just because it was a descendant of the past. Haishin just said lightly about this. Maybe it's not all. The meaning of the painting is intriguing. Bailey Yuan didn't ask. Rather, it answers the question of the seamount. Why did you want to do it to that kid? Because Gao Haoguang had killed him as the supreme of the Nine-Sword sect. And he is the new supreme of the Nine-Sword sect. Naturally, how about killing his heirs? That's a good reason. But the voice is falling. A sesame seed beside him. Slowly twisted into a typo. Haishin pointed. Say you're much weaker than the last time we met. Take your powers out of the boy's body. Even if you are seriously injured, you have to be offended. It's still going to be fierce below. Let's talk about it. Haishin took out a great magic power diagram from the show. Began to fold on his own. He was still dissatisfied. Although I am afraid of being scared and shy, but a little bit not afraid of trouble. Let's talk about it. The captive in his hand has been folded into an arrowhead. Haishin pointed to the head of this 100 miles and said, Please don't say no. Bailey Yuan smiled in a hurry. Blurted out a non-inferior sound. It's like a rhyme. It's just a microvision that spreads. You can make the river burst into chaos. It is even possible to build flags clearly, under the outcropping riverbed. The next moment, Intang Bo's energy directly penetrated through the 100 miles of abyss. The aftermath is like a shot of sword history. Break through the river in an instant, until it disappears into the sky. The duel between the great supernatural powers is really a disturbance to the people. At the moment when Haishin finished solving the 100 miles of abyss, day earthquake battle, countless rays of thunder rose in the void. Towards the seamount, destructive energy swept through. There was a slight passage of seamounts from Rem 1. Voices of difference. The green felling of cause and effect has come. There was not even a sign. Could it be because he killed him? As he spoke, Lei Meng dispersed. Stop at the red fruit. The fruit of the seamount is up. I know how strong this man is, Wu Qi. The punishment of the cause and effect green is helpless against him. Seeing Bailey Yuan's figure disappear, Haishin's expression was full of doubts. This causal green punishment came without warning. Was it just because he killed him with his own hands? But just then. But there is no sense of corpse that destroys it. It's the touch of a needle to the long river. It's disgusting. So it seems. The thief should still be alive. Its identity will definitely not be one. The Nine Sects Supreme is as simple as that. Because this person always gives Haishin a sense of familiarity. But he can be sure that he has never met him. It's like there's something. He forgot that he had seen this thief before. If you say this world, there are also beings who can do that to that extent. Maybe it can only be the outside world's sight. Come to mind. The sea and the mountains are clear. A dick disaster. Xuanji put away a momentary long march in the air. It is called this heaven and earth. The time that was condensed begins to recover. looking at the still unconscious Shaoshi emperor. Saturday was in a hurry. Hurriedly seek Mr. Heimer's salvation. In this regard, Haishinchat only felt that his head was big for a while. These 3 stitches. It's really not worry-free as always. Then he learned from Saturday Ching's mouth. It seems that the 100 miles of abyss can occupy other people's bodies and use the natal deity of others. Where will the original spirit of the person who can be occupied go? Just when the two are confused. In an unknown space, the spirit of the broken chain awakens. He looked around in confusion. I found myself in a round, above the golden January moon. And there are countless more of these people here. They were followed by branches. It's like a fruit that grows on a big tree. Broken heart. While reminiscing about everything before coming here, walking through the branches. I don't know why. Everything here reminds him that is not a very popular illusion of the rule of law. The way of thinking can be sudden. The figure of a girl flashed behind him. And tell me that this is not a private path. Duan's sexuality turned back vigilantly, but he saw that the girl was gone away without looking back. Didn't take him to heart at all. See this for sexual bestiality. Not only did he not follow the girl slowly, he tried to get from the girl, get some information about this place. But this girl is like this. I didn't even notice the boy behind me. Irrationality. Talking about some delicious food, drink, and fun to yourself. But the broken heart found out. This girl who doesn't look very smart. Each sentence will be followed by a sentence of Yohei. So he endured his shame. Asked, did someone tell me where this is? Yohei, the voice fell. The girl stopped abruptly. Turning his head towards the broken heart chain, he said, this place is in the brain of Wanya. Oh, hey. This result makes the scalp of the broken heart chain numb. Followed by, the girl said that you can also understand the city dream. This is the dream of the king of Nirvana. Heartbreak is unbelievable. Could it be said? The man he had met before was Kazuha Shirsian, but he quickly rejected the idea. That guy should. It's just related to Wanya Shirsian. And this is the girl. It's like finally realizing Duan Xinglian. The existence is unreasonable. She thought it was small. The boy dreamed of it himself, but at the moment, it seems that it is not. So he hurriedly asked the boy about his identity. Duan Xinglian said slightly after Chening, my name is Zheng Ting. Seeing this, the girl also happily introduced herself. She claims to be the Bruce Lee of the food world, the stomach king of the gaming world, Albert Einstein in sports, the king of the beauty world. There's nothing wrong with the hard-boiled eggs in the squid supernatural realm. Shirguagua is me. My boss will also call people pebbles. After that, Xiao Shitzi gave Duan Xing a sword-like practice. Everything that can be done in the realm of dreams. Just try to remember. Everything that has happened lately. It can be transformed here. Duan Xinglian felt a little novel. I hurriedly closed my eyes and tried it. As he struggled to remember, a circle of ripples rippled. But soon it was calm again. Duan Xinglian glanced at the girl suspiciously. Ask if fantasy people can't do it. But Xiao Shitzi said with disdain. So complicated stuff. How could it be? It's really boring, and then the little girl doesn't stay anymore. Turned his head and broke into a round of January. Decisive sword refining hurried to keep up. A scene that catches your eye, but once again refreshed his cognition. This is a place that is suffering from nirvana. Style siege of the island. Endless nests of corpses. The buildings on the island were trampled into ruins. And in the center of the ruins there seemed to be a woman. At the moment of its dancing, the energy of heaven and earth in all directions also danced. A few words of the head of the great supernatural mage. At the moment of contact with this energy, change for the sake of indignation. However, Duan Xinglian directly ignored all this. His gaze was firmly fixed on the woman in the air. He knew this woman. Exactly. He had seen a portrait of this woman in the 1000-base pavilion. That was their attempt at the 3 true methods. 10,000 laws, immortal monarch Jiang Mingzi. This is Jiang Mingzi's first time. Try dancing without underwear. Now it can finally be understood. Why should the Star Country will repeatedly cultivate his sentiments with his master, dance with the immortal monarch? The sun, moon, mountains and rivers between heaven and earth all move with it. The tide of corpses besieging the island. It's like a hemorrhage case under the sun. Begin macroscopic ablation. And it's in the broken star. The great divine power mansion of the practicing back patriarch was shocked at the same time. But the pebble on the side opened his mouth and fell. If only I could remember it when I woke up. Slightly different inquiries about broken heart splits. Could it be that this is a certain time? Fragments. But Zayashizi said that he didn't know very well. But time seems to have stopped here. It's not so much a dream. It's better to say it's a 4D photo. And his boss once said, all that comes to mind here is a mirage. But it's also happening. Every full moon here. It's all a photo album of memories that happened in reality. This is the eternal dream of Manhwa Shursen. It is also known as the Manhwa sacred puppet by the world. Dreams of this place. It's all important realities from all over time. That is, all the strong. A parrot that has always wanted to fight against. After listening to the girl's explanation, Duan Xinglian seemed to remember something. He pretended to be calm and asked Pebble how to leave this full moon. He wanted to walk around this Manhwa holy mansion alone. Don't let Zayashizi forget him with nonsense. He felt this person. There must be some other evil purpose. So, tight-lipped as a bottle, he said angrily. Think for yourself. The next moment, Zayashizi seemed to realize something. Hurriedly expressed his words. I just talk about it casually. Break your heart and practice your mind to comprehend. This girl is really easy to understand. Then he tried to recall the scene beyond the full moon. Then his figure began to blur, until it disappears completely. And at the moment when Duan Xinglian left, Zhang Mingzi behind the two, the smile on his face seemed to be a little more than a little left. Time goes back to the year 530 AD in the soul of the earth. Zhang Mingzi, who stood side by side with Sui Yuan. A burst of filial piety suddenly came out of his mouth. Then he asked Dao Xianjun why he didn't laugh. But Akiko just replied casually, because it's funny. Immediately afterwards, he talked about the 10,000 leaves holy building in front of him. It's a fantasy from tomorrow. This immortal monarch is curious, and now those mortals mythologize it. What will be the impact on future generations? So I don't think I'm thinking about one or two. The more I think about it, the more interesting it gets. Man believes in God. Ming longs to rely on the gods for strength and courage. But give yourself strength and courage. It's still man-made. The gods are truly a collection of innumerable selves. The mask of tomorrow. Maybe it's carved today. Just between the two of them. Within the mortal tribe beneath their feet. An old man will. The carved object in his hand was handed to his side. Children with eyes full of Western sights. The child lifted it aloft in the air. This is a Zhongkue mask. Rewind to the year 2025. At this moment, Duan Xinglian has come to the outside of Yuanyue. Since every round of January in this place. All represent important causal moments. If only he could remember everything here. It will definitely help the 3 chastity dharmas in the past. Strive for more opportunities in the future. However, Duan Xinglian also remembered what Xiao Shizi had said. If only I could wake up and remember clearly. Whether it means that if he leaves this place, will you forget everything here? It's a dream. Perhaps more likely because dreams here involve karma. I can't remember it so as not to affect reality. But that didn't work. I have to make a note of everything here. Break your heart and refine your heart. Sit down and make a decision. Resolutely walk towards the time when he had just woken up. The full moon on which he stood. Since everything in this place has parrots, it was no accident that he would be here. This full moon must have something to do with itself. I recall the scene of the first time I saw Manhwa Mori building. That's when and where he is. A moment that I dare not forget. He had to do something. As Patriarch Haoguang said, even if cause and effect do not allow it. But my heart follows me in the heavens. the culprit who destroyed the Broken Star Martyr's Gate many years ago. It turned out to be Bailey Garden. At this moment, he is in the inner wheel of Broken Star love, in the original month of cause and effect. In his mind, in retrospect, one before their tribulation, emerge en masse. I still remember this trip. It's because the 5 senior brothers in the sect claimed he found the clue of the Hagwong patriarch, and a coordinate was sent back. So the master of the gate at that time gathered all the younger brothers. Let's go to the coordinates together. Along. On Saturday, Qin always carried his little junior brother on his back. Duan Xinlian also proposed to move forward on his own, was rejected by the senior sister. He also said that he was disobedient. Just cut off his little Starlink. Such a doting. Naturally, it provoked the ridicule of all the senior brothers. Claims so-and-so. When will little Starlink be able to take charge of itself? But Saturday Qing said, the little junior brother was born to eat soft rice. As soon as this remark came out, even the master who walked at the forefront are starting to be a little extreme of themselves. This little brother pretended to sigh sadly, people who don't care about the old, who has pity for getting old. The 5 tigers mourned, don't I have filial piety to my disciples? How could you not hear the meaning of these words? Immediately jumped down. The master was picked up at a trotting pace. Senior brother and sister see this. I can't help but sigh that I can't see it. This kid is pretty good at getting things done. Since childhood, he has developed the habit of patting on the back. This son will surely have endless troubles in the future. In order not to let the little sect steal the limelight, a group of people rush forward to honor your master. In the end, it turned out to be the following picture. Everyone was immersed in the joy of this outing. Only the senior brother carried it all. Laughter and laughter. They came to the destination of the trip. However, I didn't see the 5th child. This place ends at the next virtual image. It's weird. Emerges from the illusion. It's their 3 true people. And it seems to be using some kind of magic. Song Saturday and Duan Xinglian fled somewhere. The group was puzzled. They had never seen Kazuha Shinmo. I just thought it might be a hallucination. Only the master seemed to remember something. He didn't know why he had this illusion, but he did. Westward inward, the spell they were using. It is a kind of progress left by Patriarch Hagwong. It will never be used lightly until it is in a moment of crisis. So he immediately urged everyone to evacuate from this place. However, the moment he realized that something was wrong, on the hill not far from them, out of the group of men in black came out. The person who led them was even more familiar. It is the 3 true old 5 who sent back the coordinates. The 3 true people see this. His eyes were full of doubts and unchanging joy, and not with the crowd to react. The great emperor beneath him began to shake. Countless artifacts that were ambushed here burst out of the barrel. Over here. It's a trap for their 3-pin method. Later, I learned about the intermittent relationship and Saturday love. The people who framed them. From a claim. A terrorist organization that kills to stop the end from coming. 200s. The 5th senior brother, in order to become one of them, and betrayed the entire 3-needle method. Divide yourself as a whole division. Led to this place of entering the Dharma. There is nowhere to escape. And finally, in the midst of despair, the master and others used it. Far from being as big as they could grasp this misconnection. Divine power. That is the arrow-breaking method left by the Hagwong patriarch. They fought their last breath. Only then did Duan Xinglian send the sisters and brothers out. And now the star love is back to that time. The last moment before leaving. It's all so real. But it is unreachable. He glanced back at the group of men in black behind him. Xuanji jumped up. He wanted to confirm one thing. Why did senior brother Wu choose to betray the 3-needle method? But when Broken Star Chain saw clearly under the black robe, 5th senior brother's bloodshot face, his mind went blank for a moment. This state of affairs was exactly the same as that of the main court at that time. The 5th senior brother was not sentenced to 3 stitches. He was controlled by the man. And the person who manipulated him was the 3 needles. The real enemy of the Dharma is at this moment. The figure of Bailey Yuan quietly appeared behind Duan Xinglian. He forgot to glance at the filial piety of the fifth senior brother before his death. Let me think about the reasons for the quibble. I had nothing to do with me at the time. You know it's called soft rice. How ruthless is the layman's broken star chain? When he was very young, I killed a person for my sister. At this moment, with the appearance of Bai Li Yuan in the dream, the heart of the broken star chain began to beat more intensively. Sensing the strange seamount, he let out a light sound. He knew that broken star chain must have dreamed something. But where is this kid's primordial spirit? I don't know about the sea and mountains. Although he can help it, eliminate the virus-like supernatural powers in the body. But if you can't find the original God, it's still the same as death. Moreover, the sea and Seamount Liao were also excavated. Breaking the faith column is the current state of the original God body. The dream of this thinking road. Coincidentally, it was the dreaming power. It is the work of the first owner of the Thousand Machine Museum. The sea mountain bird was extremely depressed about this. You three are really 1,000 chickens. I really like to cause trouble to others. I really don't want to do it. And at this time, I was watching the anxious Saturday Love. Soul calling mode is enabled. This made the already upset sea and mountain birds. Just pick it and don't do it. An indignant pouting in his mouth. The noisy sea and mountain birds trembled and went home to sleep. Think about it. After all, the sister and brother are working for themselves. Therefore, resignation is also considered a work injury. It's really uncomfortable not to save it. So I like to get along with myself. Running back again. Wipe the fart with the 3-stitch method. Anyway, this kid is also the last hope of the 3-needle method. But for Saturday Love, if you can. He hoped that the little junior brother would be selfish. Eat, drink, and have fun to live an ordinary life. Let's talk about it. Saturday Ching's eyes revealed distress and reminiscence. That time they received one with a 3-stitch method. Destroy the mage's commission. But no one knows. This time, the goal is to do things for the living. I don't know what to do. Saturday Love missed. One for the man who hired the mage. Although it was this person's hand that made the first move. But it's still a Saturday Love that has never killed a living person. Feeling remorse and self-blame. The 2 senior sisters beside him caught a cold. Comfort, this kind of thing will happen sooner or later. And isn't that man still dead? But Saturday is very clear in my heart. The man slashed him again. Surely death. Senior sister wanted to say something more. Found that Xiao Xinglian was missing here. It turned out that after knowing everything, Xiao Xinglian found the man. He was afraid that his senior sister would be held accountable for this. So he killed the mortal man first. When the crowd finds it, the man was completely lifeless. The senior sisters were shocked. Hurriedly spoke out to congratulate him. The little junior brother was under the gaze of everyone. Careful lowered his head timidly, whispering but firmly that the man had just died. I killed it. See this on Saturday. With a numb expression, he walked in front of the little junior brother. There were no words, and he slapped both poles directly. He didn't stay at all of these 2 slaps. However, it was Saturday Ching himself who was paralyzed on the ground. Seeing my sister like this, the chain of care also realized the seriousness of the matter. Severe coughing down made his little body tremble uncontrollably. He started saying sorry nonstop. Made him nosy. But after seeing the tears that slipped from the corners of my sister's eyes, Xiao Xinglian's silence stopped in the next game. Don't leave me behind. He was afraid of being sent away again. Because this is his last family. Saturday Love firmly hugged Xiaoxin into his arms. He didn't blame the little junior brother. He's actually blaming himself. It was you who killed by mistake. It's also yourself who hits others. Didn't let the little junior brother live. It's yourself who looks like a child. After that, Saturday's Love became even more doting and heartbreaking. In his opinion, as long as the little junior brother can live for himself, it's fine. Even if it's to be a little white face. At the same time, in the realm of dreams, Bailey Wrong, the little brother of the three truths, said with a smile, "Do you know why you are here? This dream of the 10,000 Leaves poet immortal. Only a very small number of beings can reach it. Even Jiang Mingzi. It also comes at a cost. It only invaded me briefly. And there is only one reason why you can get in. That's when it happened. In the rear of the two." Suddenly, the figure of a small pebble appeared. He looked at Duan Xinglian. I was surprised and said, "It turns out that you and I are the same kind." Bai Liu did not speak, but the smile on his face was even more than a little bigger. He began to absorb Duan Xinglian's soul. Absorb his natal powers. Feel your soul disappearing rapidly. The hatred of the heavens in Duan Xinglian's heart poured out. Satisfied with the sound of murderous intent began to echo. Decisive star love is the revelation of the three true ancestors and ancestors, both in the past and in the future, and they will destroy all their enemies. Try your best for 100 miles. One can theoretically have an infinite number of natal lives. A man with supernatural powers and near immortality. He survived for 6 lifetimes and 5 lifetimes, just to protect the Shurxian of many, and the continuation of the world of supernatural powers. At this moment, it started in Bailey Yuan. Absorb the bad comments of Duan Xinglian's soul. 2 seas and mountains in the real world. A hint of causal green fluctuations was sensed, followed by Duan Xinglian's natal supernatural powers began to operate on their own. Even shows his most fundamental appearance. This supernatural name is the man of Vic at this time. At this time, absorb the primordial god who plays with broken hearts at the other end. After that, Bailey Yuan fell silent. His own natural powers are incomparable. It can be turned into flesh and blood, and use it as a medium to invade others. Is in control. If the other party has natal powers, as long as the other party is alive, you can use it. And everyone who is taken by the 7 can all become 7 reincarnateds. When Bailey Yuan faced a death threat, his subjective consciousness will then rise to him. Control above the puppet. The puppet was elevated to the ontology, and the highest state of incompatibility is. Bai Liuan's consciousness could even be separated by a trace. Immerse yourself in the picture of your own memory, but the scope is limited. Can only be the most memorable pictures. These memories are derived from the reality of the past. So Bailey Yuan can be in harsh conditions, influence music, and at the same time as seizing the soul of broken star love. Bai Liuan is also sorting out his own memories. He seemed to understand something. The original Bailey Abyss was called Wilderness. It was given to him by someone else after he was 13 years old. Before the age of 13, he was a slave of a merchant in the world. Slaves destined to be sacrificed. That day, the 13-year-old Erisher was along with 99 other offerings. He stood on the altar. The light counts silently in my heart. He knows his heart. It stops completely after 100 beats. Give your life to the ghosts and gods. Bless the British business with good weather and rain. It's different. There really was something to respond this time. With a twist of space, a distant and mysterious being has descended. That existence is not in words. Rather, communicate with consciousness. Told the teenager. Why did the man tell the boy the purpose of his existence? It turned out that the boy's heart had already stopped beating many times. Now him. But he is the future. A monster born of consciousness on board. Right now, countless fragments flashed through Era's mind. Among them, there is a life that has not yet been experienced. He saw an existence named Bailey Yuan. It was his second life. It is 3,000 years after the time of the waste. Then, it is a supreme 100 miles called the 9 Realms Gate. Abyss has all the same characteristics as himself. But there is a present. The interpretation and leisure that I dare not imagine. Perhaps it is limited by the causal rate. Many important images cannot be conveyed. I can't see why Bailey Yuan died later. But he saw Bailey Yuan when he died. That distant, mysterious being, shot 100 miles of abyss, became a character named Pan Nanjun. It was the third life of the wilderness. It is said that more than 2,000 years have passed since the fall of the land. That's a freak who loves to collect other people's bodies. Later, he was seriously injured for unknown reasons. Bury yourself underground for more than 1,000 years. But in the end, it disappeared. After that, he became a character called the Years. The Great Wilderness is now 1,500 years old. It was the fourth life of the wilderness. This later became the predecessor of the Nine Realms Gate, the master of the gate, with power and means. Expand the gate into the 5 gates. It made it the second strongest door in the world at that time. Later, Sui Yuan also disappeared into the long river of history. More than 1,000 years have passed. Araku ushered in his 5th life. According to today, 500 years later. At that time, he was a woman named Zhuozhao. Most of his life. All of them are creatures that are ordinary people. Experience it all. There have even been cases of being captured by bandits. Take him as the experience of the lady of the village. Later, this was called the bandit pottery of hundreds of people. Many people were robbed of their bodies by Zhuozhao. Became a puppet. It has also become the future of Jianmen's travel. And then there's the beginning, I don't know what to say. It's also the 6th life at the end. It was this slave named Desolate. Araka saw this era. Is experiencing an unparalleled war. The god of Nirvana. Faced with unprecedented danger. God says to panic. To prevent the destruction of the god's world. That moment. Panic Bailey Yuan Pan and Army Sui Yuan Zhuozhao Jun has understood. I am a king and I am not me. We are all Manhwa poems. Immortals are cast from the future to the guardians of the past. Protect the continuation of the world of Manhwa Shurxian and supernatural powers. Not to be destroyed by any force. Especially the 3 chastity method. Know how strong the man in front of him is. In this great supernatural person, they can only live for one immortal. 200 worlds. He survived for nearly 3,000 years. It became a near-immortal being. It's just because he or they are Wanya poems. Immortals are cast from the future to the guardians of the past. Protect the continuation of the world of Manhwa Shurxian and supernatural powers. After the relay of the 6 lives and the samurai's top powerhouse. At that time, Nak finally sat there. It is the 11th battle of cause and effect in history. In the mountains and rivers of life and death, the main attack is the forest. Team up with that poker pass. Fitness goes hand in hand. Kazuha Shursen has been hit hard like never before. On the verge of ice death. He left his talent behind. Teleported to a place of 5. The battlefield teleported to that morning. In the hands of the assassin who is waiting in this place. And then the Baron. Throw it into the unknown river of time. As long as that residue remains. It will definitely cause Kazuha's eyes to be online nonstop. Until eternity. And yet, 3,000 years later, today, the remnants of that talent that disappeared into time appeared on the body of the little junior brother of the 3 truths. Became his natal prodigy. When it comes to this, Pebble wakes up from a dream. Bai Liyuan smiled when he saw this. And sighed in his heart, of course. Or maybe everything that's happening right now. Made everything in the past. And I am both destiny and destiny. Even if it is a strong Confucian Gongsun Lin and Jiang Mingzi. 1 or 2 people alone can't threaten Wanya Shurxian. But as long as it is within the time of their 3 true existences, there will be too many variables. Thousands of years of fate are a real headache. The Gao Haoguang who was brought under the door was like this. The same is true of Duan Xinglian. When you think of this, Bailey Yuan summoned the selfless Dharma. He wanted to try Duan Xinglian's natal prodigy. Use this thing to give you a headache. Under his control, that talent remains. Directly unfolded his final form. The gods are clear at this time. Vic's man is 100 miles. First of all, I forgot about the seamount. Then he turned sharply. Locked his eyes on the 3 truths in front of him. The last incense on the body. He wanted to use the last hope of the 3 truths. To extinguish the last incense of the 3 truths. It's really fun. and he stared at Lu Qing. I didn't perceive the danger in the slightest, because in his subconscious, the little junior brother will never hurt himself. The sea and mountains on the side are quietly watching. Let the supernatural power approach. Saturday, Sunny seemed to be waiting for something. The next moment is a reversal assault. The supernatural hands reached out one after the other. Only said goodbye to Saturday's sunny neck, but it was firmly locked with the other hand. At the same time, the blood is like an arrow. Saturday Qing's eyes were satisfied and incredulous. Just now, he felt the coming from the cold killing intent of the little junior brother's natal supernatural powers. But at the last moment, was stopped by another extreme emotional voice. This miraculous sentence in front of me. It makes him feel both familiar and strange. On the other hand, Haishan Liang seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He was waiting for this moment. Take advantage of Saturday's stance to arouse Duan Xinglian's latent consciousness. And at the moment when Duan Xinglian woke up, sitting in 100 miles of abyss in the mountains and forests, there is difference and playfulness in his expression. Iron will like this kid. He's been across it a few times, too. It's also fun to destroy it gradually.